For today's video, I will share some information that I have learned from this classification of airspace. And this classification of airspace, we should follow it. For Class A airspace, IFR and IFR separation required. Requirements: instrument flight plan, instrument rated airplane, instrument rated pilot, two-way radio communication, mode C transponder, and if operating above 24,000 feet MSL, you must have distant measure and equipment like GPS for the safety and to locate your location in terms of emergency. Class A airspace, IFR flights only are permitted. All flights are provided with air traffic control service and separated from each other. In Class A airspace will be commercial airlines or corporate and military jets. Class A airspace is located from 80,000 feet MSL including flight level 600. For Class B airspace, IFR and IFR separation required. VFR and IFR separation required. Requirements for Class B airspace: private pilot or student pilot with endorsement, two-way radio communication, and clearance to enter. Class B airspace, IFR and VFR flights are permitted. All flights are provided with air traffic control service and separated from each other. Class B airspace is generally shaped of an upside-down wedding cake with several layers vertically. This airspace is located between the surface to 10,000 feet MSL surrounding the nation's busiest airport. In terms of airport operation, ATC clearance is required for all aircraft to operate in the area, and all aircraft that are cleared receive separation services with the airspace.
The next airspace to talk about would be the Class D airspace. The Class D airspace extends from the surface level up to 2,500 feet above the airport elevation, also surrounding those airports with an operational control tower, like the Class C airspace. The Class D airspace is smaller than the Class C airspace with a radius of 5 statute miles, which is equivalent to 4.4 nautical miles. So in the sectional chart, Class D airspace are defined as blue segmented lines, although they are not required to be a circle. The configurations of a Class D airspace are individually tailored, and when instrument procedures are published, the airspace are designed to normally contain these procedures. This means that the airspace isn't necessarily going to be a circle. They may be changed by what the airport needs. We can see here that the airspace isn't necessarily a circle and are designed by what the airport needs. Before entering and operating within a Class D airspace, there are a few pilot, aircraft, and communication requirements. Since this airspace is smaller than other controlled airspace surrounding airports with an operational control tower, the requirements are also smaller. So, unlike some airspace, the Class D airspace have no pilot certification requirement. Any pilot, including a new student pilot, can operate inside the Class D airspace. In regards with equipment, unless otherwise authorized by the ATC, the aircraft must have an operable two-way radio. When inside the Class D airspace, unless you are operating under IFR, you should keep in mind these weather requirements. Within a Class D airspace, basic VFR requirements are in place, and in order for an airport to be considered VFR, there must be at least 3 statute miles of visibility and a 1,000 feet ceiling. You must also remain 500 feet below, 1,000 feet above, and have a 2,000 feet horizontal distance from any clouds. Also, the Class D airspace have a 200 knot speed restriction. And now, we'll be talking about the Class C and Class D airspace. So, Class C airspace are generally airspace from the surface level up to 4,000 feet above the airport elevation. Surrounding those airports that have an operational control tower, are serviced by radar approach control, and have a certain number of IFR operations or passenger enplanements. Class C airspace are defined as magenta lines on the sectional chart. Although the configuration of each Class C airspace are individually tailored, The airspace usually consists with a surface area with a radius of 5 nautical miles. The outer circle is 10 nautical miles, and it extends from the surface level up to 4,000 feet above the airport elevation. The minimum pilot certification level to enter a Class C airspace is a student pilot. You also need a Mode C transponder and a two-way radio communication. Each aircraft must establish a two-way radio communication with the ATC facility providing air traffic service prior to entering the airspace, and thereafter must maintain those communications while inside the airspace. So, in this airspace, IFR and VFR flights are permitted. All flights are provided with air traffic control service, and IFR flights are separated from other IFR flights and VFR flights. On the other hand, VFR flights are separated from IFR flights and receive traffic information from other VFR flights.
Hello guys, in this video I'm going to share what I've learned about Class E and Class G airspace. In Class E airspace, IFR and VFR flights are permitted. IFR flights are provided with air traffic control service and are separated from other IFR flights. All flights receive traffic information as far as is practical. Class E shall not be used for control zones. Furthermore, about Class E airspace, in IFR flights, the service provided is air traffic control service and as far as practical, traffic information about VFR flights. The indicated airspeed limitation is about 250 knots below 10,000 feet above mean sea level. It uses a continuous two-way radio communication and is subject to an ATC clearance. In VFR flights, the service provided is traffic information as far as practical. The indicated airspeed limitation is about 250 knots below 10,000 feet above mean sea level. There is no radio communication requirement and is not subject to an ATC clearance. Let's move on to Class G airspace. In Class G airspace, IFR and VFR flights are permitted and receive flight information service if requested. Just to make it clear, IFR and VFR flights in Class G airspace is almost the same. IFR and VFR flights in Class G airspace both provides flight information service. They also have the same indicated airspeed limitation, which is 250 knots below 10,000 feet above mean sea level. They are both not subject to an ATC clearance. The difference between IFR and VFR flights in Class G airspace, IFR flights uses continuous two-way radio communication, while VFR flights does not use any kind of radio communication requirement. And guys, just to give you an important note, in Class E airspace, ATC does not provide separation between IFR and VFR traffic. IFR traffic shares responsibility for separation from uncontrolled VFR traffic with that traffic.